Narcissism. Level 1. Has a name in psychology. Love bombing. It doesn't feel like a warning. It feels like the best thing that has ever happened to you. 10 levels lead from that feeling to the moment you ask yourself who you even were before he walked into your life. Most people only recognize on level 8 that level 1 was already part of the same pattern. Week 1. He remembers things you only mentioned once, in passing. Your favorite coffee order, your cat's name, the fight with your sister 3 years ago. Messages come all day, not needy, but attentive, so attentive it feels like you're being truly seen for the first time. A psychologist who has followed cases like yours for years, Dr. Elena Voss, calls this phase by a clinical term, needs assessment. He isn't collecting affection. He's collecting data. What feels like fate is really just pace. 3 months of relationship compressed into 3 weeks. Future plans that normally take a year already exist by day 10. You don't notice the speed as a warning sign because it feels like intensity, not pressure. The pace is the tactic, says Dr. Voss. It gives you no time to compare what you feel against what you actually know about him. Week 3. It doesn't start with a rule, it starts with a comment. Your best friend sounds on the phone like she doesn't really like you. Your family doesn't understand your relationship, he says. They're just jealous of what you two have. Each comment on its own is harmless. Added together, they slowly shift whose opinion still counts. Within 6 weeks, you're seeing friends less, not because he forbade it, but because every meetup leads to an argument afterward that no longer feels worth the energy. Isolation doesn't wear handcuffs. It wears the shape of convenience you choose yourself, without noticing the choice was already shaped for you. Month 2. The first comment about your appearance comes wrapped as a joke. The first comment about your intelligence comes wrapped as concern. "I'm only saying this because I love you," is the sentence that makes devaluation indistinguishable from affection. You start apologizing for things that needed no apology last week. What was attention on level 1 becomes comparison on level 3. He mentions an ex who was thinner, a coworker who's more successful. Not as an accusation, but as a casual observation you can't possibly bring up without sounding jealous. Devaluation only works if it stays deniable, Dr. Voss explains. As long as you can't be sure it was intentional, you can't push back. Month 4. You remember a fight. He remembers a conversation that never happened. Not because his memory is bad, but because a different version of the truth is more convenient for him. "I never said that." You're overreacting again. You're too sensitive to see this objectively. Each sentence on its own sounds like a normal disagreement. Added up over months, you unlearn trusting your own memory. You start writing things down, saving messages just to prove to yourself you're not imagining it. This is the moment Dr. Voss describes as a turning point, not because the relationship changes, but because you begin treating yourself like an unreliable witness. Once you start collecting evidence for your own experience, she says, the gaslighting has already worked. Month 6. The questions change. No longer, "How was your day?" but, "Who were you with?" Your phone no longer sits unattended on the table. Passwords become a topic he never directly demands, but that slowly becomes assumed because refusing now feels like a confession. Control at this stage disguises itself as care. "I'm only asking because I worry about you." You start explaining your own movements in advance, not because you have anything to hide, but to head off an argument that's coming anyway. This has a legal name, coercive control. It is no longer negotiable. It has become the baseline of everyday life. Month 9. After a particularly bad week, a weekend like the first month, flowers, a day trip, the feeling that you found each other again. Behavioral researchers call this pattern intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanic that makes slot machines addictive. This creates what's called a trauma bond. The reward arrives irregularly enough that you never stop hoping. That unpredictability binds stronger than consistency ever could, says Dr. Voss. A mind that doesn't know when the next good phase is coming never stops searching for it. You start reading every small kindness as a proof that the person you fell for is still there, somewhere underneath everything that's been added since. Month 12. The first outburst that truly scares you happens over something that wouldn't have mattered a week earlier. A late reply to a text, a missed call. The reaction is wildly out of proportion to the cause, but by now you've learned to look for the reason in yourself, not in him. You get better at reading his face before he even enters the room, better at adjusting your own tone to prevent an escalation you often can't prevent anyway. This vigilance, Dr. Voss explains, is the moment a relationship starts to feel like a threat assessment instead of a partnership. Month 14. It doesn't end with a fight. It ends with coldness. Within days, you go from being the most important person in his life to someone he barely seems to look at. No explanation that fits the 14 months before it. Just a withdrawal so complete you start doubting your own memory of the good months. The discard feels random, but it rarely is, says Dr. Voss. It usually begins the moment you stop supplying enough admiration or enough control to meet the need level 1 originally identified. You search for a reason, because a reason would mean you could have done something differently. The real reason is less dramatic than you think. You simply stopped providing narcissistic supply. That's the entire explanation there will ever be. Month 15. A message, weeks after the last contact. No accusation, no demand, just a casual memory of something good from month 1. I thought about that day at the lake today. Behavioral researchers call this hoovering, named after the vacuum that pulls back in whatever threatens to get away. It works because it arrives at exactly the moment the memory of the good months has gotten louder than the memory of the last ones. Hoovering isn't chance, and it isn't regret, Dr. Voss explains. It's a test of whether the connection can still be reactivated, nothing more. Month 16. The friends you both trusted start repeating his version of events. Psychologists have a name for what they've become: flying monkeys. A version of the relationship where you were unstable, controlling, difficult, ungrateful. Details from private moments, reassembled into a story where he was the patient one and you were the problem. The smear campaign serves one single purpose, says Dr. Voss. It locks in the version of the story where he stays the reasonable one, no matter who listens next. By the time you try to explain yourself, you already sound like the person he described. Months later, you're sitting across from a therapist, not because anything dramatic happened. For the first time in 16 months, you voice your own opinion without first checking whether it's allowed. It feels foreign, even though it should be the most normal thing in the world. The 10 levels aren't random, and they aren't a weakness on your part, Dr. Voss says at the close of many conversations like this one. They're a method that has worked on enough people, often enough, to keep being repeated. Recognizing the pattern is the first step that has belonged to you since week 1. 10 levels, one pattern that repeats itself, whether the relationship lasts 3 months or 3 years. None of this makes the months you spent doubting yourself feel any shorter. But naming a pattern changes what happens the next time it starts, because level 1 only works on someone who has never seen level 10. You have now, and the way out already has a name. No contact or gray rock where full distance isn't possible yet. What makes level 1 so dangerous isn't him. It's that the same 10 levels can wear a different face every time, a different job, a different name, and still follow the exact same order, because the tactic was never really about you. It was about finding someone who hadn't mapped this territory yet. You have now, and that map doesn't disappear just because this particular relationship did. That's the reason this channel walks through these patterns one level at a time, because recognizing level 3 while you're still in level 1 is the only version of this story that ends differently. If this changed how you see your own level 1, share this video. Subscribe if you're new here. Every week, this channel follows patterns most people only recognize once they're already in the middle of them.